Welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm Kathleen Walter. Joining us from New York is political analyst and Newsmax contributor Dick Morris. Hello there, Dick.
Hey, good to be here, Kathleen.
Vice President Biden has come out saying in an interview with Larry King that he expects more attempted terrorist attacks in the U.S. similar to the attempted Christmas Day bombing. He says he believes an attack on the scale of 9/11 is unlikely, but he anticipates attempts at smaller but devastatingly frightening attacks. A man of many words, the vice president also said he's actually pleased with the administration's success in dealing with these. What concerns you the most about these statements?
Well, pessimism is always the bodyguard of liberalism. When the liberals are ineffective at stimulating the economy, they tell us, oh, we're in an era of permanently high unemployment. And when they're ineffective in defending us against terrorism, they say, oh, we have to expect a lot of different attacks. And they try to get people to believe that their own inability is not the cause of the problem, but that pessimism and the overall environment is. The fact is that under George W. Bush, we were safe for 7 years. And now under President Obama, we've had 13 soldiers killed in an attack on Fort Hood. A passenger airliner would have been blown up but for the action of a few brave and aggressive passengers. Now the vice president's warning us to acclimate ourselves to this kind of stuff. The fact of the matter is that the reason this is all happening is that Obama has made the anti-terror investigators, not the terrorists, the object of government scrutiny. And he's terrorized the investigators. And therefore, they're very much afraid when they get data on somebody to send it on or to put them on a no-fly list or to send it to the military. They're concerned that they might be, on the one hand, racially profiling someone. They're concerned that they might be violating someone's civil liberties. And the result is that it doesn't get done. And as a result, these terrorists slip through the cracks. And it's not fate, it's Obama's policies that are causing this.
The president's assistant and deputy national security advisor for Homeland Security and Counterterrorism, John Brennan, has come out saying that anyone who criticizes Obama's counterterrorism policies is, in effect, helping al-Qaeda. Do you feel that this is backwards, that Obama's efforts to bolster his own credibility in fighting terror are actually helping our enemies?
Yeah, I believe the second is true. I think Brennan has it completely on its head. I think that the thing that really is helping al-Qaeda is that we released the details of the interrogation of the Nigerian underwear bomber. We said that he talked for 45 minutes and then he got his lawyers, and then when his family came, he talked more, and he's giving us all kinds of information. And the reason Obama and Brennan are putting that out there is to counter the accusations that by trying him in a civil court, they're not going to get any information out of him. Well, in releasing those statements, they're telling al-Qaeda, change whatever plans you had. Assume that this guy is singing and that he'll tell the feds everything, and change your plans. There's a devastating metaphor here. It occurred to me when Winston Churchill was the Prime Minister of Britain during World War II. He was under severe criticism because they were unable to stop the German bombing raids of London. And 50,000 Londoners died in the Blitz. And at one point, Churchill actually knew that there was going to be an attack on the city of Coventry. He picked it up in the intercepts of the German code that they had broken. He let the attack happen with no warning and no evacuation, rather than tell the Germans that he'd cracked their code. Obama would have a big press release out, Obama cracks German code. Aren't we an effective national security team? It's the opposite of what you need to do in this situation.
Now, Iran has declared itself nuclear. Do you believe that the Obama administration has allowed this to happen?
Well, there I think we have to portion the blame to Bush and to Obama. I personally think Bush is more culpable in this than Obama because he was inactive for a longer period of time. The United States has absolutely refused to get tough with Iran, and as a result, Iran is going to sooner or later develop nuclear weapons. Unless Israel is gutsy enough and willing to accept the losses it would incur in attacking. There's a very simple thing we could do to stymie Iran. 40% of its gasoline is imported. While they sit on the largest oil reserves after Saudi Arabia on the planet, They do not have the refineries to convert it into gasoline that can be used in cars. Only 60% of their gasoline is refined in Iran. 40% has to be imported, most of it through Dubai across the Persian Gulf. The United States could interdict that flow of gasoline. It has a navy. We could just stop it, or we could persuade Dubai not to be complicitous in sending it. Instead, Obama will not take that step, and he talks about all kinds of other sanctions that are not meaningful and won't take that key step. So because he doesn't have the courage to do that or the commitment to do that, Israel may have to take it on their own and attack Iran with devastating consequences to Iran and to Israel.
Let's talk about health care reform. President Obama wants to meet with Republicans for a televised health care summit. Is this genuine bipartisanship or a political ploy, and how should Republicans respond?
Well, I think it's clearly a political ploy, but that's fine. That's what politics is made of. You have to take those moves seriously. The Republicans should go to the summit, and I think their spokesman should not be the minority leader of the House or the Senate or McConnell or Boehner. I think it should be Coburn, who is a doctor, senator from Oklahoma, and Barrasso, a doctor who's senator from Wyoming, and perhaps doctors who are Republican congressmen that sit in the House. And these doctors should confront Obama over this issue. And they should say, Mr. President, you are president, of course, and I'm respectful of that, but you're not a doctor, and I don't think you understand what your program would do to doctors. And then these doctors need to make a very clear point to him. They need to say the way to cut waste in medical spending is to cut out unnecessary tests. But the government can't do that as long as you're not giving us cover against trial lawyers who would sue us. Because you tell us don't give that MRI, and the trial lawyer says you're liable because you didn't give that MRI. And we're caught in a vice. We're pushed one way and pulled the other. And they need to make the point that tort reform is the real way to reduce medical costs. And the doctors also need to say, you know, Mr. President, you don't appreciate, I don't think, how busy we are, how little time we have to spend with our patients. And if you add 30 million new patients without any extra doctors, you're just going to decrease that time. And I think that these Republican legislative doctors can be very effective in making this case.
Dick, some people on the left are calling for President Obama to assert his authority more using his big congressional majority. If this healthcare summit with Republicans produces nothing, do you expect him to do that?
Well, he's limited in the ways he can. First of all, his majority is now largely on paper. After the Massachusetts victory and the various other Republican wins in New Jersey and in Virginia, the majorities are there, but they're terrified. There are, for example, 23 House Democrats who voted in favor of the health care reform bill who are very vulnerable, and I expect most of those would not vote for it if it came up for a vote again today. And I think that Obama is very limited, not just in the statistical inability to get 60 votes in the Senate, although that's significant, but also in the head for the hills attitude of a lot of his Democratic congressmen and senators who are running scared because of the way public opinion has moved against this president.
Now, what about the president's jobs creation bill? The White House is proposing offering employers a $5,000 credit for each new worker they hire in assistance with Social Security taxes. Even Nancy Pelosi has voiced skepticism that this plan will actually create jobs. Do you think the president will get the support he needs to pass what it is that he's proposing?
I think probably he will be able to pass that bill and the aspects of this job package, because I'm not sure that Republicans will be unanimous in voting against it. They should, though. This is a bill that should not pass. We need to understand that you do not create jobs by spending money. You don't even create jobs by borrowing money and giving it out as a tax credit to businesses. The reason that businesses are not creating jobs right now is they have no access to credit. And the reason they have no access to credit is that the government is hogging it all. Commercial lending in the United States is down by more than 20% over the last year, and government borrowing is up by 41% in the same period. So as long as the government hogs the loan window, and pushes the private business that's trying to create jobs aside, no tax credit in the world is going to be particularly effective at creating jobs. And let's also understand that all of these things, all of this spending and the tax credits and the public works and all that is like a heart-lung machine for the economy. The economy isn't creating jobs, it isn't stimulating demand, so we're going to do it for it. We're going to have the government send that demand coursing through the veins. And of course, to a certain extent, that'll work. To a certain extent, if you spend the money to hire a teacher, you'll get a teacher and there'll be one less unemployed person. But what happens when you remove the economy from the heart-lung machine and consumer demand has to pick it up on its own? And the more you make it dependent on the heart-lung machine, as opposed to lowering that deficit, decreasing the borrowing, and increasing steps by small businesses to create jobs, as long as you depend on that machine, it gets harder and harder to get off.
Dick, last question. Washington and the entire mid-Atlantic region are breaking snow totals this week. A number of conservatives used the weather to poke fun or make jabs at Al Gore by building igloos and twittering about it. But in the midst of all of this, the Obama administration is planning to open a climate change office. Dick, in your opinion, do we really need a climate change office?
Well, I remember when I was with Vice President Gore in the White House, and the president called us for a meeting in the residence, and we had to run, literally streak through the Rose Garden in our light business suits. It was May, and the temperatures had fallen to some outrageous level, and we didn't even have coats, and we had our summer suits on, and we were running through the Rose Garden, teeth chattering, and I looked up at him and said, "Global warming, sir?" And he looked down at me and he said, "A barren climate is a predicted consequence of global warming," and in he ran to the White House. I think that Obama clearly is going to try to push the climate change agenda, if for no other reason that he wants to use it as an excuse to impose government regulation. But the important thing to realize is whether you believe global warming is happening or not, the United States on its own, through the private sector, has succeeded in reducing its carbon emissions by 50% of the goal Obama has set. Obama said we needed to bring it down 17% below the 2005 level. We're already 10% below that level without any taxes or any regulation, just simply by being environmentally conscious, and the recession, of course, has helped in slowing economic activity, high gas prices, getting better cars, driving less. All of that is happening the way it's supposed to happen without regulation through the free market economy, and probably can solve this problem if indeed it is a problem.
All right, Dick Morris, thanks so much. Always great to see you.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.
Sarah Palin's new book, Going Rogue in American Life, will be released on November 17th. You can be among the first to get your copy. Check out our incredible free offer for Sarah's new book. Just go to Newsmax.com and click on the top banner for this great offer. Act today.